right? I lean a little bit more in Ryan Grimm's direction, but as Ryan said, but then we have to have a reckoning. So Young Turks was very clearly on one side of that. We said, look, we think defund the police is not productive. We think it's a bad slogan. We think that, and no one covered police abuse more than we did. That's just an empirical fact. And we were enraged by it, but we didn't think the right answer was framing it so like there'd be no police. And every time the people who chose that slogan and defended that slogan said, it doesn't mean no police. Then why did you call it defund the police? And so we're asking you to do reasonable things that don't make us unpopular. If you mean reform the police, say reform the police. If you mean end the policing, then say end the policing or defund the police. Like, so when I say defund Israel, I don't mean, hey, let's slightly reform our relationship with Israel. I mean, no, not another dollar to Israel. So that's a clear statement, right? So let's be clear about what we mean. And then we got a lot of pushback on that. And on abolishing prisons, we had these huge, long debates. And so my question along those lines is, there's actually a couple of questions, Elliot. Number one, are we all clear that side of the debate was wrong and that abolishing prisons and defunding the police are very unpopular and we shouldn't go in that direction? Or are people still defending that? And then that leads to question number two. If people are still defending that, and this is a genuine question, are they livid with AOC today for throwing them under the bus?
Right.
Or are they now in the position of, well, AOC's our demigod, so if she's changed all of her positions on that, we overnight have also switched our positions.
Hopefully, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
I mean, I'm more in the DSA camp, and there is a criticism that is prevalent throughout the DSA and people to the left of the DSA, which is a constant worry that social democrats will capitulate to this sort of milquetoast liberal policies whenever they gain power. So I don't think that this interview did any favors for AOC with that subset of people. And definitely as someone who tries to remember that politicians are tools, that you don't need to have like an emotional investment. You don't have to have this sort of cult of personality thing. They are useful insofar as they get the job done. My best case scenario here, and this is maybe cope, but at least my hope, is that AOC is actually kind of doing like an inverted version of establishment Democrats, where rather than banging her fist down or like taking a photo holding a baseball bat and trying to act tough and then doing absolutely nothing, she is doing this sort of more tempered down rhetoric to try to appeal to everyday voters, but would still govern according to those original principles. Now, as for some of those other, ideas from the DSA, I think, yeah, a lot of that goes down to rhetoric and it's bad marketing. I think there's perfectly valid reasons. It's definitely not what you lead with, though. But we live in an age right now with the internet where people are going to dig that up, and it seems like it's forever and it's going to be taken at face value. So we'll see what happens. I agree, like you were saying, with both Glenn Greenwald too and Ryan Grimm there. I also think it's important to remember the historical context of that time. Too much with COVID, which Floyd, a lot of people were becoming aware of a lot of systemic issues that they weren't previously, and that led to a lot of anger, and that anger, I think, got directed really incorrectly. But I do not understand what's going on with AOC in a lot of this interview. She kept talking even after that last clip, but she also never really addressed the substance of the question.
But like in New York, you had the candidates that were endorsed by Mayor Mamdani, two of whom were challenging sitting members of Congress, powerful members of Congress, Democrats, and you decided to sit that one out. Is that part of wanting to work with your colleagues that are in the House? I mean, what's the...
Yeah, I think we're all in different, politics is also a workplace, and we're all in different positions to that. I endorsed, for example, in New York, on the state level, I endorsed a slate of challengers to incumbents in the Assembly and in the Senate, and I don't work in state government, which gives me a greater freedom to be able to do that and to assess it. And I'm very grateful, that we now have a progressive movement that is in large enough numbers that, it used to be that you could fit 5 people in a closet, and that was the caucus, and now we've grown into quite a successful movement.
All right, and final clip. Here's hold on. I want to stay on that.
Okay, but wait, how would it make it a little bit weaker for you to endorse? So basically she's saying, hey, you're on your own. I'm not gonna help you. And part of the point of forming Just Democrats was so that people would get inside the gates and open the doors and put down ladders so that others can climb up, not pull up the ladders. So yeah, this AOC would have never endorsed the AOC that ran against Crowley. That's a stone cold fact. And she just told you. She says, well, I mean, Congress is also a workplace. So that means I have to be nice to my coworkers, but your coworkers are establishment pricks. There are entities who are preventing Medicare for all, who are preventing even things like paid family leave that's sitting at 84%. They're preventing higher minimum wage, getting money out of politics. They're preventing us from extracting ourselves from the wars and from Israel. I don't give a goddamn that they're your coworkers. That's not the relevant part. So, but she's telling you right there, no question, she's saying, yeah, I care more about them than I do about helping progressives who are running in these primaries. I'm gonna be loyal to them. And she said, look, I could endorse in the state assembly races. There's where I have, quote, greater freedom. But who's taking your freedom away? Bernie's in the Senate, and Bernie's endorsing everybody and their mother. Ro Khanna's in the House, he's endorsing everybody and their mother. Who's taking your freedom away? Nobody is. No, you're choosing to work with Hakeem Jeffries and the Democratic leadership. Don't blame it on lack of freedom. And if it's true, then I don't want to vote for someone who's saying, yeah, I'm handcuffed. Vote for me, I'm handcuffed to the Democratic establishment and my colleagues and co-workers.
Loves the sound of earning and saving money on Vinted. Don't wear it, sell it.
Streets, smells, sound. Take it or leave it, you know what I'm saying?
Park University has been a pioneer in online education for 30 years. That means we've been mastering virtual learning since before Google. And we've paired it with personalized support, expert faculty, and programs built for real-world careers. Whether you want to advance your current role, switch fields, or finish what you started, you can trust that Park has the perfect program or certificate to get you where you want to go. Discover more at park.edu.
And then, Elliot, to the earlier point, what was that excuse about, oh, I was woke before because it was COVID?
I have no idea what that is.
What was that? Like, is that a thing? Like, you were allowed to say things you don't mean during COVID, or we all got crazed during COVID? And why does it have to do with COVID?
The timeline doesn't add up either. Woke began before COVID.
Yeah, and you wanted to defund the police because of COVID? And so wait, I just help me understand that. Like, are you saying now that you were like, because she used the word crazy. Elliot, I know with absolute certainty, if I said woke one was crazy, I'd have at least half a dozen left-wing hosts take my head off, right? Crazy? What do you mean crazy? How dare you say it was crazy?
We did perfect.
Yeah, and here's AOC saying, yeah, we were all crazy because during COVID we lost our minds and woke was totally wrong. wow. I mean, how is that not stunning?
I agree that we all lost our minds due to COVID, but again, woke predates COVID, and yeah, I mean, we had a more socially divisive time. There was a lot of confusion going around, and there was a lot of interest in people making really big, sweeping changes, but we have one more clip here where AOC kind of addresses this concern that's especially coming from the left regarding whether or not she's the same candidate that she was when she first ran for Congress.
You've changed as well, right? How have you changed since you came in? As this insurgent, rebel, at odds with the Democratic leadership, how have you changed?
You know, I think life has a way of really weathering you and adding to your context and your experience. It humbles you, but it also emboldens you in a lot of ways. And I think it has been the greatest privilege of my life to be able to represent the working people of my congressional district. And I think some of the ways that it's changed me has been to be able to come in with so many aspirations for our country, and then to have the remarkable opportunity to be in the arena and try to make the country a better place, challenges and all. And I love that it's hard. I love that I have to, and I get to engage with people from all across the country, elected officials from all across the country, to try to actually fulfill our dreams to guarantee health care to every American.
There you have it. That sounds to me definitely like a politician. It is a little disappointing. I hope this worry is just overblown. There's a little part of me that's like, ooh, do we have egg on our face here? Is this another example of a politician just falling in line the moment they get a little power? Cenk, what are your thoughts?
What was that?
I don't know.
That was a word salad and a half.
Yeah.
That sounded like Kamala Harris. So, okay, it's funny because I literally got asked the same question before I saw that clip earlier today, okay? I was on Dan Le Batard's show, check that out when you get a chance. And he asked me, hey, Cenk, you used to be a Republican and then you changed. And what made you change? It's a great question, right? And it's a perfectly legitimate question. And we talked it over about how I changed issue by issue, realizing one by one, literally waking up, in a sense, being woke, right? Oh, it turns out I thought the Republicans wanted to balance budgets because that's what the media kept telling me, but they never balanced budgets. I thought they said they were for peace through strength, but we never got to peace. All we got was war, right? And I went through and explained all the different things that made me realize, oh, these guys are full of crap. And so, and you could see the timeline because it's organic, it's real, it's natural. That's what happened in my life. When he asked that question, she went to, time weathers you, it humbles you. Okay, I don't know what that means or is how that's relevant to any of this. And then you come in with aspirations, but it turns out it's a challenge, okay? And then I love that it's hard. I don't know why we love that it's hard. I'd rather it would be easy, okay? And then we get to, that's why we're working with colleagues to make it better. But are we? Which establishment colleagues have helped make it better? Did we negotiate drug prices? Did we get anything passed? Well, how did the humbling and the weathering lead to working with the colleagues that led to the bills none of that happened. And in the midst of that word jumble, how did she change? She went from, let's go, we're a rebel, we're in the middle of a political revolution, let's go take out the incumbents like Crowley, let's get in progressives and populists and knock down the doors and get all these things we want to. My colleagues are my co-workers, and I love working with them and accomplishing nothing. Well, that's a giant change, sorry. So you could say accomplishing some things. To be fair, she got a little piece of the Green New Deal inside of one of the bills. And look, that's a significant accomplishment. By the way, if you say that, I can live with that better. If she's like, hey, look, we didn't get anywhere near what we wanted, but at least I got that portion in. Yeah, I got taken out later by Trump, but we were trying to do something. Give me a real answer. Don't give me word salads that don't mean anything. And guys, why do I tell you this? Because I want you to, oh my God, you shouldn't like AOC or not. No. Look, I'm not in the James Carville camp, right? So I disagree with people who want to abolish prisons. I don't want to drive them out of the party. I want to have them stay here because we're all going to work on Medicare for all together. We're going to work on ending the endless wars together. By the way, also when somebody from the right comes and says, hey, let's end the wars, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Joe Kent, etc., other people say, don't work with them. No, on ending the wars, I will work with them. We've got to get united, otherwise we won't be able to. So I'm not trying to push AOC out. I'm not saying boo AOC. I'm just saying that if we go towards a presidential election and you have to choose, be careful in how we choose. Because if we choose someone like Obama, who was amazing at giving speeches, and then he gets in and goes, oh, no, I didn't mean systemic change. I meant a tiny amount of change. We won't be able to survive it. No, we need someone who's going to actually go for big change, systemic change, and mean it.
Yeah, I also went from Republican through Libertarian and Democrat. It's the same thing. Like, I can point to times that punctuated that kind of development rather than what AOC is doing there, which honestly, and I don't mean this as a compliment, kind of reminds me of Kamala when she was on the presidential campaign, and she would do these interviews where you just kind of laugh things off, and you're trying to come off charming, but maybe it doesn't really land. My hope is that maybe AOC has a meeting where they talk about the strategy moving forward, because again, I think she's great otherwise. I hope this is a one-off.
Welcome back, one and all, to the Damage Report. Me, John and Earl, and it being a Tuesday and all, you don't know who's joining me, but I think you're gonna like it because it's been a very long time. I was like trying to remember when was the last time I talked politics with David Schuster, and honestly, it feels like it might be like 6 months. But let's bring him on. David, how long has it been?
It's been a while, and it's nothing personal, John. It's just, and it's all about scheduling and priorities and all that kind of stuff, and we all lead very busy lives, but it is always an honor to be on with you, so thanks for having me.
No, I know what's going on. I've been through this before. You have someone on, and then you watch as their content's blowing up, and you're like, eventually, they're going to be too big for me.
I wish that was the case.
But thank you for making some time. I do appreciate it.
Of course.
And somebody in the audience is like, nice polo. This is a Quince polo. They're one of our podcast sponsors, and I really like their shirts, actually. So anyway, that's something you can look into. David, thank you for being here because we got to talk about Donald Trump fleeing another assassination attempt. We've got electoral updates. We've got a congresswoman being stalked by ICE. We've got Boebert family dramas. We've got inflation. Everybody already knew that. We got a lot to discuss. So everybody out there, please hit the like button, share the stream, send us your comments, your tweets, and or your super chats. And David, are you ready to do this thing?
Let's do it. I've got a lot to say, so let's go. Let's go.
Awesome. And I especially chose some stories that I think you're going to be into. Okay, let's jump into this. Donald Trump got caught hiding in a bombshell expose in one of the funniest ways imaginable. So do you remember a while back, last month, Donald Trump had to flee Turkey, and there was this weird thing about planes and which plane he was going to be on and everything? Well, there was a cover story that could not be further from the truth. The truth, though, is pretty funny, and here is Caitlin Collins to break it down.
President Trump was seen boarding Air Force One at 8:24 p.m. local time on July 8th. But actually, according to the Post, and you can see here, Trump and several of his aides were secretly shuttled minutes later onto this airport catering truck, which was elevated and positioned at a door out of the view of the cameras. Now, the Post reports that the president was on that catering truck when it pulled away from Air Force One at 8:30 p.m., secretly bringing him to a smaller plane, an Air Force C-32A, making the Air Force One that everyone thought he was on a decoy that still had the reporters who thought the president had boarded that plane, and who you see boarding right here on the right, and some White House staff aboard.
So he enters in the front door, and then he exits through like the place they bring the sandwiches up in or something. Like he's exiting one of Joe Blut's magic tricks or whatever. Or like he's Michael Scott being carted around with like a cheese cart or something. And then he's off, and he's gone. So evidently, there was what they perceived to be a very serious threat, and they didn't feel like, even with all of the security measures that they have, escort planes and chaff and flares and all the stuff that they have to secure Air Force One, regardless of which Air Force One we're talking about, they thought Iran might take this thing out, and it's not safe, so we got to get him off there. But this is, I think, the funniest way that they could have done it. People have been sort of trying to visualize, albeit with AI, how this might have worked. The energy's already been used, the water's already been boiled, but here are the images of him. Some of them are less generous to his physical form than others, I guess. I don't know which it is, but I love it. I hope he wasn't just like duck walked out. I hope he was in one of the actual carts. But just remember in hindsight that he was talking about like, I just want the cool plane to go to a base so the soldiers can see it. It's so badass. They should get to see it too. That wasn't true. And when he was being stuck out, he was posting about how we've got 1,000 missiles locked and loaded and aimed at Iran, with thousands more to follow if they act on their threat to assassinate me. And oh yeah, no, we'll wipe him out or whatever. Meanwhile, he's got like lettuce on his shoulder and mayo on his hair as he's being carted out of it or whatever. Anyway, I've never heard of anything like this before. David, what do you make of this?
Well, this one's actually kind of personal to me because once upon a time in my career, 25 years ago, I actually covered the White House and was able to fly on Air Force One, the same Air Force One that Donald Trump decided to get off.